So someone recently reached out to me and she gave me permission to share this, by the way, and she basically had thoughts of fear and anxiety as a result of an impending exam that she had to write. This exam, keep in mind that she had not yet written, but she was already scared about. And when I asked her a few questions, I actually came to see that indeed this was as a result of an external factor and not a continual or continuous recurring thing with her. And she also said that she had a similar situation where she had sat for an exam, and as a result of how that turned out, she was not quite sure about how this was going to turn out. She also said that she had recurring random thoughts during the day that would just change her disposition, change her morale and her mood, and this was actually affecting how she was seeing the exam and just what she was hoping towards. So I encouraged her, as a lot of us would typically do, and equipped her with some tools that I am going to share in this video, so please watch till the end. The last one is very important to actually stop a cycle of repeated negative occurrences happening. Yeah, but before we go on to that, I wrote here what fear and anxiety actually means according to the dictionary. And here I have: fear is an unpleasant emotion or thought that happens in the presence of real or perceived danger. And anxiety typically manifests as fear or apprehension, mostly about future events. So a lot of times we use fear and anxiety interchangeably, but they are different. They are completely different entities. Whilst fear actually happens on its own, most times where you see that, you see anxiety, and where you see anxiety, you see the former. So, what are the things that could actually trigger fearful feelings or thoughts? Because these are actually thoughts that could affect your emotions. And here I have three major things that could trigger fearful feelings. But under one, I also have three little babies that could actually make or give sense to this particular one. Now, without wasting too much time, let's unravel this puzzle. Now, the first thing is your own perception of the situation. While this may actually sound like a legitimate reason why one could have fearful thoughts, it actually carries a bit of self where you can actually change it. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, the three babies, we have your perception of the weight of the situation, your perception of the weight of the situation as it applies to you, and your perception of the consequence of the situation. Now, in the example that we gave earlier on, the situation was actually the exam, a major exam that she had to write. The perception of the weight of the situation as it applies to her, basically this is the part where we can actually tweak, where most times fear tends to limit us. And I say most times loosely because it happens all the time. Fear tends to limit us and bring us down, where we see this situation as a mountain and we see ourselves as an ant. So, or a grasshopper, in the case, as as the case may be. So it's like an inversely proportional kind of equation where the fear is actually looking like a giant as opposed to us, right? So the perception of the situation, the perception of the weight of the situation as it applies to us, is where we actually have the work, the wherewithal to actually tweak. The situation, of course, is a major exam. We know that, right? The consequence of either passing or failing this exam, we know that. But what is our perception of that situation as it applies to us? Do we think that we have within ourselves the ability to actually conquer that situation, or do we feel like this situation could actually conquer us? So that's where we have dynamics that needs to be changed. And the second thing that we have here is past experience. Like the example that we gave earlier, she had sat for an exam where she was so confident about, but it turned out that she failed that exam, and now she was just not sure how does she go on, or how can she boost her morale enough to actually sit for this particular one that is quite even bigger than the previous one, when she was so sure that she was going to pass the other one, but it turned out to be the other way around. And the third thing here is trauma. Sometimes the trauma from past experiences can actually affect what we are afraid about. Probably a person witnesses an accident in a certain place and decides that, oh, anytime that I want to pass this place, I just can't seem to pass this place because, there's just this overwhelming sense of fear that comes over me because of what I experienced. And that's just an example of how trauma can also trigger fearful feelings. And how do these things actually manifest? They manifest in ways that you would not typically expect, and that is why it persists longer. What you should know is that fear is like an energy. I personally like to call it a spirit. And why do I call it a spirit? It's similar to an energy. Energies cannot be killed or quenched or destroyed, but they can be transferred from one form to another. And that's the same thing as a spirit. So the spirit of fear comes when those thoughts have taken root in your mind. When those thoughts have taken room, they formed a whole process in your mind, and it just overwhelms you with that spirit or energy, as the case may be. And how does it manifest? Like I said, thoughts, random thoughts that come throughout the day, over the course of the day, and they come unprovoked. Your mind probably just goes to something and you think about it. And the reason why it is really tricky and subtle? It's really because a lot of times when it comes into our minds, we internalize these thoughts as our own. And the truth is that these are not our thoughts. Why do I say that? I know you're gonna be like, oh, maybe it's why are you saying these thoughts are not our thoughts? It's my mind. I'm the one thinking these things. But the mind is basically a garden. Anybody can actually sow any seed in the garden. So picture your mind as a garden, and anyone can sow a seed in that garden, right? So there could be weeds, there could be broccoli, there could be garden eggs, there could be eggplants, there could be nice spinach, or whatever the case may be, pumpkin leaves, whatever the case may be, but there are weeds, right? It just depends on what you want to grow in your garden. So that's the mistake we make. Different people have come to, now I'm using people, they've come to sow the seeds in this garden. But the best part about it is that you can decide what you want to grow in the garden, because it is your garden. But then I feel like I'm jumping the gun. So that about the random thoughts that come into the mind during the course of the day. That is how the fear actually manifests. You think they are your thoughts, but they are not really your thoughts. They are just these little pockets of thoughts that just, oh, I'm dropping one thing there, and then you take it, you internalize it, you say it's your thoughts. Why am I thinking this? It affects your mood, your disposition, your emotions, even your actions sometimes. So that is actually how the fearful thoughts manifest, or the fearful feelings manifest. Another way that it can actually manifest, and know that, oh, I think I am being afraid about something, I think I am afraid about something, is by the words that you speak. Sometimes we mask these things under the guise of, oh, I'm just speaking, I'm just airing my mind, I'm just ventilating my mind about what I think about a particular situation. But the truth is that, first off, they are not your thoughts. these are seeds that were planted in your mind. So why are you validating the thoughts by actually speaking what are not your thoughts? Do you get it now? So the words that you speak can actually um carry a tinge of fear when you allow these thoughts to take root. So you might find yourself saying, oh, I had this exam, do you think I would really pass this exam when I had this and all of that? It could actually come in a certain more subtle way that is completely masked, and you may not imagine. I didn't say anything wrong, but girl, dude, you are saying something wrong by that. Please pardon that if that actually sounded um rude. Then anxiety. Anxiety, it also manifests as anxiety. Remember the definition of anxiety that we said that anxiety manifests as fear, and the truth is that fear also manifests as anxiety. When you find yourself being anxious about things that you keep wondering, why exactly am I anxious about this event? So you just have to really, is there anything about this event, this situation that should make me anxious? Yes, we get, sometimes you might have the nerves if you have an exam coming up right before. It shouldn't persist. It shouldn't come with some form of debilitating fear. It shouldn't come with thoughts of negativity, but just nerves packed in and racking in your system right before that soon dissipates with time. Those are normal. But when anxiety persists and comes with thoughts that are outrightly negative, this is a manifestation of fear. Now, how do you overcome them? It's simple. Refuse to align with the fear. Refuse to agree with it. Weed them out. Weed the thoughts out. The thoughts of fear. That is how you overcome fear. And the truth is that this um topic of fear is so major yet underestimated, that a lot of times people don't realize that the reason why some things happen is because they have dwelt on a particular negative um feeling or thought for so long, because they made it their own. They made these thoughts their thoughts by acknowledging them as their thoughts and not recognizing them for what they are. And I'll tell you how to refuse to align with the thoughts. This is something that I practice day to day, so I'm not speaking as one who is superior. I'm speaking as one who daily practices it, as human that I am. But I'm recognizing that when I flow with that thought process, more often than not, I get the fruit. Because just like a seed that a farmer sows in a garden or in a soil, if he waters it, tends to it, before long he gets the fruits of that particular seed. So I choose to sow the seeds of faith. I choose to sow the seeds that boost confidence and boost productivity, as opposed to sowing seeds of fear. So I refuse to align with it by recognizing this thoughts. So when I have this thoughts, I don't let any idle thoughts just linger. And the truth is that as humans, we have, our minds are like a roller coaster. It's goes, I mean, I really don't want to speak out of turn, but we have a million thoughts per day. So recognizing each thought, you should be so in line and in control with your mind and the thoughts that you have, that you are able to recognize thoughts that do not align with what you want to see. So that is what to do. First thing is recognize those thoughts, recognize them for what they are, and then you need to recognize that your perception is the main character in this movie. Yes, your perception is the main character. Remember the garden, the farmer. You are the farmer. You are the owner. Not necessarily the farmer, but you are the owner of the garden. Imagine you have a garden where anyone can come and plant seeds, but you get to choose what seeds or what plants you grow. That's how it is. You are the owner of the garden, and you determine what seeds and what plants you want to grow. So any plant that does not align with your overall vision for the garden, you weed out. You capture it in that time and without. So that is what you do. Recognize that you are the main character. Your perception in this case is the main character in this movie. You are the owner of the garden. Then you also want to capture these thoughts. So in the link below, I show you a way to capture these thoughts. What that link does is it invites you into a class where I show you how to capture these thoughts. It's completely free. This is not a one-on-one coaching. It's just completely free. It's my own gift from me to you, where you capture these thoughts that come into your mind. Imagine a culprit, say a thief who is known to rob houses within a community, and it's been going on and on and on and on and on, but then the law enforcement officials eventually catch this thief and then put a handcuff around his wrists. What that does is basically they have stopped this thief from moving on to the next house to steal. They have basically put a stop to his activities, and that is what you do when you capture those thoughts. If you don't capture it, it's going to go deeper and deeper and deeper till it becomes a process, till it becomes a pattern, till it affects your emotions, your actions, and then your overall outcomes. So you want to capture them before they progress to something bigger. Then another thing that you do, which is the fourth thing, is that you change those thoughts. Now, how do you change these thoughts? I know that we have positive affirmations where, we speak out and say, I am bold, for instance, I am brave, I am confident, I am beautiful. While these are all very legitimate and genuine ways to actually change the course, but these are not necessarily sustainable. So I show a more superior way of actually changing these thoughts. You want to speak out words actually, but I'm talking about words that carry power. I'm talking about words that have the authority to actually change things in your mind. Beyond positive affirmations, you want to actually change this thoughts for real, and not just change them in this instance and that's it. I mean, eventually it would the words carry so much power that it actually takes root and builds a whole fortress in your mind, so to speak. But what you should know basically is that changing those thoughts actually requires you speaking out the right words that you need to see in your life. The fifth thing that I have here is, do not leave a vacuum in your mind. Nothing exists in a vacuum. Nature has proven that. Science has proven that nothing actually exists in a vacuum. And when anything exists in a vacuum, it gives room to unwanted things. Have you ever seen an untended garden? Then you see weeds of different kinds. So if you do not want, once you've done and captured all of these things, you don't want to leave your mind blank or your garden free for anything to just come in. Then it means that you have to plant the right things into your mind. And how do you plant the right things into your mind? By filling your mind with the right images, by filling your mind with the right words, by filling your mind with the right situations and visions that you like to see. And the truth is that our minds actually paint pictures with our words. So when we speak a word, how we interpret this word is that we paint pictures with the words that we've heard. That's why for that's why the whole visual content aspect of content creation, is very, very instrumental because it actually utilizes the audio visual systems to create images. So it's that, and that's how important it is to actually speak words or actually meditate on the words and let your mind form pictures. But your mind wouldn't just form pictures because you said it, because you said a word. You would literally have to sit on it, meditate on the word, meditate on those words till they form pictures and images in your mind. So that is how basically that you can refuse to align with the fear. Now, to actually give you a conclusion to the story that I started with, so the lady eventually sat for the exam, and according to her, on the day of the exam, she saw the questions were nothing like what she had read for. I mean, she had read for A, and what she saw in the exams were mostly B, and this basically was going to fuel a whole other bout of fear in her and anxiety. But she remembered the tools that I gave her and I equipped her with, and she began to speak these things, especially um when those thoughts, even while she was writing the exam and after the exam, but before the result of that came out, she began to speak these words recurrently, and she would speak them almost like she was literally fighting a war in her mind. And eventually, when the result came out, she was successful. So she was successful. She was really about it. She was successful to the point that she started to doubt because she felt I read mostly A, what I saw was B, and now it feels like I'm actually successful in this. It was so unbelievable, really, that she was doubtful at first, but eventually she saw that indeed this was her result, and she actually gave me a call to tell me of the good news. So yeah, that's basically it, really. That's basically it. Our minds are gardens, our minds are literally a battlefield. And what I do to help people walk through this is literally mix faith and science, and that is basically the word of God and science. And I know that this may not resonate with every single person. This is not even intended to impose any form of orientation to you, but this is to help people, even as I have been helped, and as people have been helped even by using some of these tools, so that you are indeed able to navigate some of these real life issues. And when you know that you've tried all that you can and some things still persist, don't you think it's time to look another way? So yeah, that's basically it. So if you've watched this far and you really enjoyed this, you feel like this were actually very helpful tips, you can indeed click the link in the description below and let me work with you if you desire a one-on-one personal experience, or if you would want to have the free tips that I share in a group. So yeah, that's it. Also subscribe, so um you know it gets pushed out more and more, and you get notified of few of new and subsequent videos. So that's it for this video and this episode. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.